It's good to have Peter Morici, University of Maryland economist. You can follow him on Twitter at PMorici1. Don't follow that P. Morici 2 guy. That guy's full of it. But P. Morici 1 knows what he's talking about. Good morning, Professor.
Well, good morning. I guess it's Friday, so you'll squeeze in an academic.
That's right. Listen, there's a new report out. Saw this on CBS News last night, and this is according to statistics from the Federal Reserve, that 1/4 of U.S. families, in their words, are, quote, just getting by. 25% of U.S. families just getting by in this economy. That can't be a good thing.
Well, actually, that's the American way. Thomas Jefferson was always broke. I mean, if you want to live at the very edge of your means, you're always going to be just getting by. What is sad is probably about 1/4 of our population has to just get by. They are back in the era. My grandparents lived that way, living in tenements in New York City, raising my parents. Sometimes they had to double up. There's two families in the same apartment. There's a lot of people now that are at that edge because this economy hasn't done well for the last 15 years.
Well, can I add to that also the increase in social welfare programs where people are working less, taking in more from the government? Doesn't that put them in the category of just getting by also and perhaps keeping them in that category?
Yeah, the government certainly does encourage dependency, especially this administration. But it really started in the Bush years and even back in the Clinton time. After Newt Gingrich managed to make Bill Clinton keep his promise to end welfare as we know it, the Democrats, whenever there's a crisis, have pushed out the frontiers of things like food stamps, Medicaid, health care, so that, that woman that I go on TV with, whenever we have the minimum wage debate, says, I'm living on $7 an hour, and I can't eat. And she's also quite large and is well-fed because she's getting an earned income tax credit, which is very generous. She's getting food stamps for her kids. She may be getting some child support. She may not for the 3 kids. And she's getting free health care. All of that encourages her to basically take a minimum wage job and then complain for more social welfare, vote for Democrats, and all the rest. This administration is built on the following premise, making 51% of the population tax-free and dependent, and mining people like Jamie Dimon on Wall Street for campaign contributions to run around and talk about the horrors of the rich to get the 51% to vote for him. It's a cabal.
Well, can we change topics for a minute to the roller coaster stock market? I think people have been following it with a little bit of trepidation. What do you think's happening? Are we going to recover a little bit from that big drop last week?
Well, we're in an adjustment. There's no two ways about it. We will recover, but not immediately, because every day there's something new. I mean, as a result of the foreign policy we've been pursuing, everybody is testing the frontiers of peace. The Pax Americana is in retreat because we have refused to step up as we have promised the world we would, whether it's the South China Sea, or it's ISIS, or it's Russia. Russia's the big one right now.
Yeah. However, I mean, in the energy sector, and that's been such a strong sector for the U.S. economy, as finally we get a little bit more energy independence thanks to the oil and gas drilling that's been allowed to occur in the last few years. If Russia and the Middle East continue to be hotspots, that drives energy costs up, and in the long run, that will help that sector in America, won't it?
Well, yes, it'll help the energy producers, but we still import 5.5 million barrels a day that we don't need to import. During Obama's time on private lands, we have increased energy production. I guess it's 1.5 million, 2 million barrels a day, and we have more natural gas, which is good. On the other hand, we could produce another 4 million barrels a day offshore, which we have basically shut down on the Atlantic coast, the Pacific coast, the Eastern Gulf. If we did that, then we'd really be energy independent, and we would be insulated from all of this turmoil in energy markets. Our trade deficit would be smaller.
The president is flirting with the idea and has opened up the discussion of loosening up some of the restrictions on offshore drilling. But your Democratic contingent in Maryland, there, Peter Morici,
opposed to it.
I think 7 of the 8 Democrats who make up the congressional delegation have all sent a letter saying, "Not in our state."
Well, they don't love me over there for saying the things I do, and they've made that clear. Ask Chris Van Holden if he's a fan of Peter Morici. But I live in Virginia. Okay.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Tom Moran's a good Democrat. He's my fan. He likes me. He comes when he sees me, he shakes my hand and loves me, you know?
I love it. So you live in Virginia, but you go invade Maryland for its economic...
since you've decided to be personal, you should know I moved to Washington in 1976. My wife taught at Fairfax County Public Schools. My kids went to school here, but I only got a job at the University of Maryland 18 years ago.
Oh, all right.
Now, I mean, if you had a choice,
You're like the Vikings. You come into Maryland to get what's good for you, but then you go back home where it's much better. I get it. I like that.
Sort of carpetbagging in reverse. I am the South's revenge.
Yes, you go north of
on a border state.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I mean, I don't put a Confederate flag on my what is it, bumper, because that offends people.
Probably a wise choice at the
Peter,
University of Maryland.
Probably get stoned.
Peter, let me ask you on a more serious note. If drilling ever becomes a reality, expanded drilling, what will that do to the economy in real terms?
Well, it would really be very, very positive. It would probably add, 100, quite a few jobs, many, many jobs. It would probably reduce unemployment by 1 or 2 percentage points.
Wow.
Which is nothing to sneeze at. Yeah, we're talking about a lot of money here. Remember, wiping out oil imports, that money that goes abroad, is lost. Whereas if the money stayed here, it would go into the domestic pipe industry and construction and engineering.
And those are good-paying jobs, too.
Yeah, and the oil workers are paid very, very well.
Right.
Remember those evil oil companies that the president is always carping about? Just about any American that's got an IRA or a Kia owns a piece of Exxon.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're talking about ourselves.
Sure.
I mean, when they sue I love it when they sue Bank of America and fine the stockholders.
Yep.
Most of that is us because we all own
Yep.
them.
Yeah, well, plus all the union pension plans own stock in those companies. But Peter, I keep hearing that all these green energy jobs are going to be coming. For the solar panels and the wind farms and such.
You've seen that it hasn't happened for good reason. That stuff isn't here yet technologically. We've been hearing that promise since I was a kid in school. And remember, when I was a kid in school, we were still making fires with stone and flint. Yes, we were. We had the wheel. It was the axle. It was the guy that made it's the axle. We just played with the wheel. Then this guy came along with this long wooden pole, and and that was the thing that changed the world. So we had the first chariots and all that. In any case, those things aren't going to happen. Also, the president is merely saying he's exploring it to get people like me who write op-eds about his energy policy off his back. Just like he's talking with China about currency. He has no intention of upsetting the people in Maryland. It would take a forceful president, a forceful Democrat who is committed to oil exploration early in his term, which he no longer is, using his mandate to push it past the resistance in the Democratic Congress.
I don't see that happening.
No.
Right. So he's just playing games with you, just like he's talking to China about the currency. And I'm also talking about playing shortstop next year for the New York Yankees.
Peter Morici, always good to have you. Thanks for joining us,
Thanks,
sir.
Peter.
University of Maryland economist. And follow him again at Twitter at PMorici1. By the way, I should point out, one Democrat from Maryland did not sign on to that letter.
That was
Denny
the
Hoyer.
Democratic whip.
Yeah, very
He's
interesting.
a top leader, and he's not